by far the most important element in astronomy, from telescopes through to cameras and eyepieces and cables, etc. I would argue the most influential bit of equipment that you need for astronomy is the mount. The mount is the platform which basically stops your telescope from shaking about. There's nothing worse than looking at an object and finding that the telescope is just wobbling around like a jelly. For astrophotography, not only does our mount have to be a stable platform and not move around or wobble at all, but it has to be precision aligned to the polar axis of the Earth, so that as the Earth rotates, it's able to compensate for the Earth's rotation, keeping the objects that we're imaging on the camera sensor without the stars moving around. Forgive the pun, but we ask an astronomical amount from our telescope mounts. Not only do we want them to compensate for the Earth's rotation, be a stable platform, we also want them to respond to commands that we give them. So typically with astrophotography, you'd have a guiding setup which locks onto a group of stars or a specific star. And when there's an inaccuracy where the star moves, we command the mount to compensate for that. So it's not only compensating for the Earth's rotation, it's compensating for potential errors, a gust of wind that moved the telescope, all sorts of things. And we ask our mounts to compensate and to be able to keep those stars still. We also want them to look after our cables. All of this stuff that's on our telescope mounts, we ask it to manage that, to ensure the power is distributed, to ensure that data goes to and from our cameras and to our computers. The power management, the data management is often done through the mounts, so that you've got connectivity here to reduce the impact of having lots of dangling cables. What we ask of these telescope mounts is a huge amount. Of all the things that we ask our telescope mounts to do, probably the most important thing that we want them to do is accurate guiding. This is my EQ5 Pro mount. It's always been tricky to get this to guide well, and I recently had it serviced, but it's still not delivering the sort of guiding results that I would like. So I decided to investigate a new mount. A Clearsky ST-20 Harmonic drive mount. What a journey this has been to get this mount. When this mount arrived, it had been damaged. It wasn't just damaged, basically it had been dropped here, and this whole square section that you see here had briefly gone like that and squidged up and then relaxed again and gone back. It is still square. There's no other damage inside. Trust me, I know, I've taken it to pieces. But these side panels, these things here, were squashed. So let's quickly have a look at when I opened it, and you'll see just how squashed they were. The process to get this has been weird. I ordered one of these, and then that order somehow got refunded and cancelled. I then thought, oh, okay, that's AliExpress. So I ordered it again after a couple of weeks when I was having problems with my EQ5 Pro, and this was delivered. Here's the box it came in. This box had been taped up before it had actually been shipped from China, and the way I know that is that they'd put that yellow packing tape around one side, because this whole side had been damaged. It basically had been ripped off this side, and you can see that it was actually taped up already along here and along here. So this has already been damaged before they'd even shipped it from China, and I think they were just kind of fobbing me off with one that was on the shelves. This is the gamble you have when you order these things. It arrived in this, I'm going to be saying this bag's terrible, and it had a missing foot on there, and generally The bag was dirty, it was really dusty. So I think that they were trying to fob me off with this particular mount. So of course, I contacted the supplier and I said, look, this thing's damaged. Please can I send it back and have a refund or a replacement? To which they said, no, we'll just replace the sides because that's all it is. But of course, I don't want something that's essentially been dropped before it's even been shipped to me. So after loads of debating with the supplier, I got literally nowhere. So I raised a return with the supplier saying it was damaged and nothing happened, not a single thing at all. So that then timed out. So I cancelled that one. I then raised a return for item not as described because this was damaged, so therefore it is not as described. So I raised that return. The next thing that happened was very strange. I raised the item not as described, I put photos in to show the damage, and almost instantaneously they agreed to return the item, and all of a sudden it said that the item had been shipped by me. The item's here, it's here right now. And it said an arbitrary date of about 2 weeks, and then I will get a refund. They made up the tracking details and the return. It's really bizarre. So I have been refunded for this, yet I have the mount still. So A, I feel a bit bad about that, but B, I don't quite understand what's going on. I kind of think that what they do is if the item, which this mount, although it's of value to me, it mustn't cost very much to make. So the shipping to send this back to China must be more than the value of the mount. Therefore, it's better for them to just refund it, make up the tracking details, and I'm kind of assuming that they do some weird number crunching in order to reclaim some of that money by making up the number. I don't know that for sure, I'm just guessing, and I could be being unfair. But the value of this mount is obviously far lower than it would be to ship a damaged mount all the way back. So here we go, I have a damaged but okay-ish harmonic drive mount. So what I did first of all is I straightened the side pieces. So I've straightened these side pieces, they don't look too bad. Interestingly, when I took the side pieces off, the quality of the engineering inside, it's all right. It's not that impressive, to be honest. Let's have a look at the engineering on this mount. I have unscrewed each of the 4 corners. You can see this was the corner that was damaged, and it's kind of folded across on this bit. And on this corner, it's actually snapped off, completely snapped off, that you can see there. Now let's open this up and you can have a look at the engineering quality on this. So first thing that I saw was there is no heat shrink on a 12-volt switch there. So normally you would put heat shrink on that in order to prevent anything from shorting out and to protect the cables as well. Let's look inside. Now, first thing that comes to mind is the belt and the belt size. This one clearly has 2 barriers there to stop this belt from slipping off. This one appears not to have that at all. It's very thin. This whole box is extremely thin. Now, this is the counterweight socket just here, and you're meant to be able to put anything up to potentially a 5 kilo counterweight on something that's probably 3 millimeters thick, 4 millimeters thick, and it's also machined out, so it's even thinner as well. So this unscrews, and that's an M12 thread there, and you would then screw in a counterweight shaft. This mount is rated up to 20 kilos or 20 kilograms without a counterweight, and then up to 30 kilos with a counterweight. I would not put anything above sort of 15 kilograms on this mount. This here is thin. It is really, really thin. And if you're screwing a counterweight bar in there and then potentially hanging maybe a 5 kilo counterweight here, I would be worried that would pull through and fall on the floor. Just me, perhaps I'm being oversensitive about these things, but the engineering on this is not particularly impressive. I was keen to learn whether I could get any support for this mount, so I found the website for Clearsky and I emailed them asking if I could replace these side panels, and I've heard nothing. That was over a week ago. So it confirms to me what I think we all know, is that the support for these products from places like AliExpress is limited. They are essentially seen as a disposable item, and if it goes wrong, you are literally on your own. This here is a laser diode that you can see is there. Now that is used for polar alignment. I would not use that myself because I don't think having a green laser potentially pointing up towards Polaris is a good thing, but it does have a green laser built in on this side. On this side of the mount, you can see there is a fold here from where I repaired it. You can't see it too much, but it's definitely visible. And there's a button press here to switch on the laser diode that we have here. This is the limit switch, so when that's on, in theory, it should limit the motion of the mount. This button is a home button, so when you press that, it should automatically home. Now when you power this mount on, it automatically slews home anyway. The other aspects of this mount that you can see, there's the DC power in, and you have an ST4 connection here, which again, I'm not sure if I will ever use. I shouldn't think I would. This plate here, this red plate joining the mount, has some torque set screws. You can't see them because I've put the pier on, which I bought separately. Again, that's from AliExpress. I'm actually quite impressed with this. That's been really good. But there are torque set screws here to allow the correct torque settings between this plate and the mount so that you can polar align. On the mount, you need to be able to set your latitude using this knob. Now, there is an adjustment just in there, which I'm hoping might be visible. You can just see a screw just in there. Now, what you do is you adjust this so that if you're at higher latitudes, such as I am, around 50 degrees, you can move that bolt so that it clamps this plate here in the right latitude adjustment for your location. So if you're in lower latitudes, such as below 20 degrees or 20 degrees upwards, you adjust that bolt just in there that you can see in order to set the latitude of the mount. The rest of the polar alignment is done with these. They're very long, and yes, I would imagine they're quite good at catching cables, but so far we'll wait and see what happens with those. There are 2 spirit levels if you like to completely level your mount. So if you're guiding, and you should guide with a harmonic drive mount, then these are not really required at all, because guiding does compensate for minor inaccuracies in the level of the mount. The saddle takes both Lost Mandy and Vixen dovetails, and these seem to be quite nice controls. They appear to be anodized aluminium, and on this side the data port is a USB-C, so that is your main data connection, and then it has a DC out. So I'd imagine that that is taking DC power through the mount, going through the mount to here, so that you can power your telescope and other bits on the mount itself. There is a crude magnetic system here. There are just 2 magnets for holding an Allen key, which just sits in there, and it just goes back in, and that's it. These are locking screws which are on each side, And once you've set your latitude height with polar alignment, you can lock these off. It was always going to be a risk of buying a mount from AliExpress. Evidently, there's zero support. The engineering on it is questionable. The material used is very thin, although gladly it is elastic, because when they dropped it, it sort of squidged and then relaxed. So it's still square, which is good. I've been able to bend these back. You can see that there's some damage on them, but I've got my money back, so I shouldn't really complain. But I do feel for people, if you are buying a Clearsky mount, the figures they suggest are huge. I mean, massive. The version of this, the one above, the ST-25, is quoted with enormous payload, absolutely enormous payloads. Now, I don't know how thick the aluminium box is for that particular one, but if it's literally 2 or 3 millimeters of aluminium and you're putting a counterweight bar on here with an M12 thread, that's a hefty thread, and then a counterweight, and then a huge weight here, I would question the safety of that. If you knock it, it will just pull it out straight away, and then the mount could topple over. These are budget mounts. It's still £1,200, but luckily with import for me, I got my money back, so it's only cost me 80 quid. Would I buy this now, after I've experienced what the mount is like? It is not engineered for £1,200 worth of technology in here. It just isn't. It's not got £1,200 worth of technology in here. And therefore, you have to ask yourself that question, is it worthwhile taking the risk of getting a mount which has no support and spending that much money, or maybe should I save up a bit more and buy something that's better engineered, is from a company which has a reputation and that you can get support for? I'm afraid I do feel now, having experienced this, that you should actually buy something better. A mount like this, having seen the engineering inside, and I've tried to show you some of that as well. I'm not going to tell you to buy one or not buy one, because that's not my role. I'm just trying to articulate my experience of this. Having said all of that, this mount guides really well. I mean, really well. Staggeringly well. And if you are after, if you can get one of these cheaply, potentially it's a really good lightweight. I mean, it's super light, very light, and I suppose the payload is pretty good. I would not use a counterweight bar on this in a million years for fear of it just pulling out. It's literally 3 millimeters of aluminium in there. I would not trust that at all, to have a huge counterweight on. But if you can find one of these really cheaply, and you just want a cheap portable mount, this could be a really good solution. But you play that game of potentially it could be damaged, and you have literally zero support. And I'm not sure it's worth the risk. I'm really not sure it's worth the risk. I am testing out a new mount tonight, the Clearsky ST-20, which I have got, and it's currently imaging really well. Not unhappy by this at all. The guiding figures are looking pretty good. So 0.79 on my guiding figures. I'm taking very short duration looping exposures, so 0.1 seconds seems to be the sweet spot for this particular evening. Seeing's not absolutely amazing. It's okay, but the mount seems to be very happy around 0.1 seconds. I did go lower, and the guiding figures went up, and I went higher, and the guiding figures went up. So I've brought them back to 0.1, and it seems to have settled on these particular figures. I managed to get 4 hours of data on the Cygnus wall, part of the North American Nebula. So that's NGC 7000. And this is the stacked data, which we'll do an unlinked stretch here. So you can clearly see that there's the wall and there's a gradient going across this. PixInsight did its magic, and this was the final image which we got from this data. I'm pretty pleased with this. When I was blinking through the data, there was only one frame which I deliberately didn't include, and that was because there was a satellite that had gone through that. All of the others were pretty good. When I stacked that data, I chose to stack 90% of it, so that I left Deep Sky Stacker to basically choose the best frames. I'm pretty pleased with how this mount works. I did an early guiding test with the mount before I made this video, and I recorded the initial guiding figures. I've got 0.66 on the guiding here. That's pretty good for a mount which has been damaged in transit. This is how the mount arrived. It had quite a severe impact to this corner, which caused the edges to fold inwards. Luckily, the mount has actually returned to its original shape, so it kind of folded inwards and then relaxed back out. But the side panels were quite badly damaged, as you can see, and it was this edge that had the impact here. And you can see that's the fold on one side, and this is the fold on the other side. So I've straightened those out, and the mount now looks straight, but you can tell there has been a bit of an impact to it. It's a real shame. The mount is pretty good, although when I took it apart, I did find it wasn't built really to the standard of a mount of that price. So if you are considering one of these cheaper harmonic drive mounts, do think very carefully if you are buying one of these mounts. I was very fortunate in that my mount works, and I've been able to straighten the sides, and it works pretty well. If you are buying one of these, think carefully, is it worth the amount of money that you are investing? Because they are made to a lower standard than other brands of mounts, and I actually think for what they are, they're priced quite high. So do think very carefully about that. You may turn out getting a mount that is brilliant and works really well and that you're happy with, which is great, or you may end up with a mount that's damaged in transit like I did. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos, and I hope they're useful to you. If you can do me a favor and subscribe, I'm literally just shy, I think about 185 away from 3,000 subscribers, which is astonishing. I'm incredibly grateful to you for just watching and for hopefully enjoying the videos. It's much appreciated. Take care, everyone.